Welcome to the demonstration of Access Data's Enterprise Investigative Solution, the preferred investigative solution for forensic and incident response engineers worldwide. Access Data Enterprise is primarily used by computer forensics, incident response, and security engineers who require a solution with global reach to investigate the security events, policy violations, and legal requests put upon their desks on a daily basis. We're going to begin the demonstration with a couple of short slides prior to our demonstration. So what are your digital challenges? These are questions that we often have to ask ourselves when we're thinking about investigating remote systems for incident response, security events, breaches, exploits that have occurred on a network, and general forensic investigations. Typically the challenges range from e-discovery to data loss. And in the middle fall employee malfeasance based on policy violations and inappropriate use, fraud, IP theft, data audit, and PCI, going after the personal information on individuals' desktops that should not be stored there. One question that we often need to ask ourselves is, what does this cost our organization, and how are we approaching that cost? So why enterprise investigations? It used to be that we could grab a disk and conduct a forensic investigation, but the threats have changed. The internal threats based on our employees who might leave the company or violate policy have grown. The external threats from the outside, or the bad guys, are still out there and they're still going after data. They're still attacking our organizations. And then we need to respond to the legal requests that come in for litigation. In addition to that, technology has evolved to a level where a standalone forensics application, though it's useful in certain situations, doesn't have the reach to go across the network and gather the information that's being produced by web services into back-end structured data sets and on large-scale disks. These threats and requests lead to our need to gather data and effectively respond to what the bad guys are doing, to the legal requests of gathering data from hundreds of thousands of machines across our network, and to, in some cases, adjudicate the internal employee of wrongdoing. We also need to validate if things are going on that are a negative situation. If someone's doing something bad, if there's fraud going on, if there's harassing emails, or if someone's using our systems for inappropriate use. So what are some of the requirements that we need in an enterprise investigative solution? Well, first is forensic integrity. We need to be able to acquire the data and introduce this into court. We need to make sure that this data has been stored and saved, and we can validate that the information that we've acquired is the information that resides on the disk or in the memory or in the volatile data of a system. We need to be able to conduct these investigations covertly and be able to access these machines over the wire without end users knowing about it, or in some cases quietly to not disrupt their work. We also need to be able to provide a thorough investigation, to be able to go through every piece of data and make sure that we can carve out that data and extract the evidence that's necessary. In addition to thoroughness, it needs to be affordable and it needs to be fast. We need to be able to inexpensively and quickly go out there, grab the data from the remote systems, bring it back, and then conduct our investigation. Access Data Enterprise provides some key capabilities of multiple machine and remote analysis, looking at static, disk-based, RAM, memory-based, and volatile data that resides on individual systems. We're able to acquire this information and bring it back and investigate this information through live preview, remote acquisition, remote volatile data capture, and remote RAM capture. The operations that are processed on the individual systems are conducted in a forensically sound manner. It's a powerful and easy-to-use incident response and investigative solution that provides information to key volatile data elements, memory, and static data that no other solution provides. In addition, the advanced processing power enables the automatic and selective analysis of data. And the product scales to a level where other products cannot scale. It's a centrally managed product where additional components can be added to further enhance the scale and reliability and speed of the data we're acquiring. Access Data Enterprise is a completely secure solution. The investigator logs in to the Access Data Management Server over a secure SSL, 120-bit SSL connection. All other connections are also 120-bit SSL communications. In the middle, we see the worker systems. There are three of them. The worker systems talk to the remote endpoints where the data resides. The agent that resides on the remote endpoints responds to the workers and passes that information back to the examiner so that they can conduct their information. The data is stored in a database, and the reason why there's a database is because of the scale of investigations that we're seeing. Flat case files no longer work. A flat case file cannot handle the large data sets that are out there in the typical disks today. For example, I have a 350 gigabyte drive in my laptop. A flat case file will not be able to handle that. But a manageable database that can scale to include billions and billions of items can handle all of the information and metadata associated with every piece of data on my 350 gigabyte drive. We're going to go into the demonstration now, and we'll go through some advanced features of Access Data Enterprise, how to connect to a machine, how to filter on information. We'll uncover some carved items, we'll add devices, and we'll go through a general demonstration. Here for our demonstration, I've added one disk. This disk we can go through and conduct an investigation, a brief triage of what's running on the system. We can drill down and go through that drive. I can go and select specific drives and see specific directories and see what's within those directories. I can also enable my quick picks, and I can quick pick an entire directory and see everything that's there and see all of the data there. Or I can quick pick my entire drive and look at everything on the entire drive. And I can go through and see everything that's on that drive there. I can also disable quick picks and completely turn it off and rely only on a hierarchy view by clicking down, clicking on a file, and seeing just the contents of that file or that directory. So I've added this drive, but first I want to do some enterprise investigation of the volatile data on this system. So I'm going to start out by adding remote data. I'm going to either select my management server to load information. I'm going to select my agents from Active Directory. I'm going to either load an agent from a text box, or I'm going to load a file, an import file. So from here, I'm going to go and add laptop 1, and I'm going to just gather the volatile data for now. I'm also going to select hidden processes to see if there's any hidden processes. I can also apply some resource usage statistics to this, or metrics to this, so that I can go and gather information and do some bandwidth and process throttling over the wire and on the processor of the target machine. I can set this to high, medium, or low, and what this will do is this will set the priority of the agent on the system that I'm investigating, and it'll also throttle the bandwidth down. I'm going to select high for now. I'm going to select preview, and we'll let that run. Now that our data is back, I'm going to close these boxes. I'm going to close that, and we'll go to our volatile data. We'll look at our time. We can also look at our process list, or we can look at systems. I've only swept one system, so I'm going to go and stick to my processes for that system. And we'll immediately look at the processes on that system, and we'll filter by name and gather some information here. So from here I can go and look at the name of a process that's running. I can see the path for that process, the start time, working directory, command line, process ID, parent ID, who the user is associated with that, and the hash value. I can scroll down and view some of this information here and see what's running. And immediately I see that there's a telnet running. Well, let's see what this user's up to. When I click on telnet, I automatically pull all of the DLLs. I can also pull the description of the DLL. I can pull the path. I can modify how I view everything and slide these windows over and drag them into different places and customize my interface how I want to see it. Next, I'll go and look at my handles. My handles is where I can go and gather some information about the actual system, about the process, and what's going on as far as threads, files that are associated, any events that are occurring with that process. In addition, I can also do some volatile data correlation of information that's running on that process. And immediately I can see that Telnet is using port 1161, protocol TCP. The local address is 192.168.220.129, and the remote address is 192.168.220.128, and the remote port is 4445. Well, let's go and take a look at that system and see what's there. Let's make sure that we have that added to our management server. We'll log in here. We'll make sure that we have that system added so that we can go and investigate this machine. From here, I'll click on Change Network Tree, and this will give me a view to go and look at that machine. Well, I don't see that machine there, so I can add it. So here I'm going to call this Laptop 2, and I'll put in the IP address. We'll save that. And now we'll go to modify our roles. So we'll manage our role here. I'll select the role that's bound to my account. I'll configure that, and I'll add Laptop 2 to that system. Save that, and I'll save that. I'm just going to verify what role my user has. My user has the role of investigator. So good, so everything's bound to me. I can also go and view my audit logs. And from here I can go and see that I've successfully modified a role. Okay, let's close this, and let's go back, and let's investigate that system. We're going to add evidence again, and from here we're going to add both systems. Going to select the volatile data. I'm going to leave my resource usage as high, and I'm going to preview that machine. I'm actually doing a preview of both machines to show the sweep of the actual time when I sweep. So we'll see this information come right back. We'll be able to start conducting our investigation based on that time. Our last time was 11:16 and 30 seconds a.m. Our information has come back. I'm going to close these. I can also check that, close all completed, close my window. We'll go to our time view. In addition to looking at processes on that single machine, I can also go and view the DLLs. Any DLL that's been loaded into memory on the system, I can go and view those DLLs and conduct an investigation based on the DLLs. I can also go and look at all sockets associated with that machine. So these ports are ports that are in use, ports that are waiting, ports that are unknown, ports that are established, and so on. So we can see the established ports over here on this one machine, and we see nc.exe. That stands out like a sore thumb to me. But for now, I'm also going to go and look at the network devices. I can look at my drivers that are running on the system, and I can see exactly what's running. This will help me identify anything that might be considered malicious. I can also go and look at all of my services that are running on my system, my user list, and my open handles. So here's where I can see what kind of handle type it is, what the access mask is, when we acquired this information, what the process ID associated with these handles are. I can do the same for my other system as well. Now, System 1 is my original system that we looked at, and this is where we went and found that Telnet. And there's Telnet running right there. So I'm going to go and look at the process list of our machine that's hosting that netcat listener that we just uncovered under the sockets, and here we see that netcat is running with a path of nc.exe. The working directory is cnc, and the command line is running and serving up port 4445. We can see that these two are connected, and for now I'm going to select these, and I'm also going to go and select any command prompts that are open as well. And down here under System 1, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to grab the process list, I'm going to select any command lines, and I'm going to go and get rid of Telnet. I can right-click and kill a process, select my checked items, and I can go and I can kill these processes. To verify that these processes have been killed, I'm going to go and add that remote data again. So we'll add the processes for both of these systems. In addition to going and manually checking these off, I can go and set my preferences to go and do everything to any selected device. For now, I'm just going to grab this memory. We'll select preview, and we'll go over and start looking at our data, our static data that we've collected already. From here, I'm going to drill down because typically when we find this type of information, we find stuff that the user has done via the web. So I'm going to go into the individual user's temporary internet files, and we'll see what they have there. So one of the things I can do is I can go and create a new filter. I can define my filter, and I'll call this custom 1, and we'll search for extension. Contains HTM. Save and close, and let's apply this filter and turn it on. So from here we can see all of the HTMs that we've actually investigated. Well, let's see what the individual users have been looking at. So here we have a file, AR 2005-121-900-928-1.htm. Let's pop this window out. Let's see what this file is. Well, we found a website, WashingtonPost.com, with an article, Hackers Break into Computer Security Firm's Customer Database. Well, let's take a quick look at this. And this really isn't considered evidence, so let's put this back and we'll see what else we can find. Let's go and see if there's any searches or anything that's out there that might be considered interesting. And we can toggle through. We see the Office Compatibility tool. We can see that how to telnet to a port. Well, here's an interesting article using telnet to test a port. Let's put this back. Let's look at some of the metadata associated with that file. So we'll highlight search 2. Let's scroll over. Let's look at the created date, 4/11. We can also drill down and see what else has been created on 4/11. Or we can go over to our date and we can filter based on created. And here we can toggle through some of our files and see what's out there. And we can see that the user has actually been doing some investigations on specific ports and what can happen. Let's also go and grab one of these files, and we'll look at the filtered view and see what we see here. And here we can see some information. We can also go and look at the text view and see the raw text and the raw code, and we can go and look at the hex view. Natural view, we can go and look at the default view and see what the file looks like before it's been rendered completely. And here we can go back and click on that web. Let's see what else we found. Let's look in their documents. Let's turn off our filter. And let's go and see what's out there on this specific drive. Here we can go and find some files. Here's a Word file. I can increase the size of my screen. I can customize my screen any way I want. I can pull out specific fields and lock them in different areas. So here, if I want to, I can go and investigate my properties alongside of the file and see information about this file. So I can go and look at information as the owner SID, the group SID, so I can see who has rights to it, what's the record number for the MFT, and so on. I can also go and gather some information, and I can go and quickly search through it. I can highlight, I can go and create Unicode text strings and conduct searches. But for now, we're going to stay with the file content. but we're going to add a device. And the device we're going to add is laptop 2. The reason why we're going to add laptop 2 is because adding laptop 2 will give us some information about what they're doing on the other end. Here I can go and check off that volume. I can also select complete disk image and just pull that drive across, and I can include my Slack and recover any deleted files. I'm going to select OK, and we'll let that load right now. So while that's loading, I'm going to go and look and see if there's any interesting email on the system. What we want to find is some communication. Here we can go and find an Outlook PST file, and I can look in the deleted area and see if there's anything there that would be of interest. Or I can go and drill down to my personal folders. Here I can look in my inbox and I can see a listing of all emails. I can also go and I can highlight that inbox, and what that'll do is that'll render all of my emails over here in the upper right hand pane. So here I can go and gather information. I can filter by date. I can look and see about individual properties, when it was created. Is it unsent? Is it unread? Does this have an attachment? When has it been modified? And so on. Here I can go and highlight my first email. Let's see what's going on there. And this looks like it's a boarding pass and receipt for a confirmation of a flight. Let's look at the attachment associated with that. We notice that by highlighting, this has an attachment. I'm going to move this column over, and we'll leave that in the true area. Here we can see the actual flight, the actual ticket, and the receipt for that flight. I can also go and filter on attachment, filter for anything with an attachment. So here's where we'll be able to render this and see, well, here's all the files with attachments. Let's look for something that might be considered questionable. Here we can go and look at individual files and go and look at the associated attachments. I can look at ticket confirmations. In addition to that, I can go and search for specific names, who files were to, who they were from. And here's an email from Howard Jablome to James Doe. And the subject is guidance software was hacked. From here I can drill down and I can look at the body of the email and further grasp more information about what the communication is. I can also simplify this method and go right down to my emails themselves and look at the objects and see what objects are being found in this email. I can look at folders that are associated. I can look at the actual messages, and I can go and look and see where the PST actually is. I can also go and view my graphics. And if I turn on my volume data, I can see all of my information by using my quick picks to enable me to view everything. So from here, I can go and quickly filter through and see what the individual has been looking at and what they're doing on their system. Throughout this, I can also select files and create bookmarks. So I can highlight a specific file and create a bookmark of a file and add them to my case so that I can create a report. Create a bookmark, and we'll call this images. I'll throw that down there, and we'll click OK. Let's go back and check on our drive and see what we've added from the other system. So we have our other drive here. I'm going to turn off the quick picks for everything, because right now I want to drill down and look at my individual directories and files and so on. From here I can go into my documents and settings, select my tech admin user. Now notice that we're looking at volume laptop 2 with no volume label. The other machine we were looking at was primary disk 1, laptop 1. These are both remote machines that are across my network. From here I'll go into local settings, temporary internet files, and I'll run that HTML filter. So let's go and find that temp filter. And from here we can go and look at things like, well, what are the individual users looking at? And we can see that this user has looked at a Netcat web page. And here's the information. Now we haven't carved any data yet. We've only done an investigation. But from here I might want to save this information. And I might want to add this. Create a bookmark. And we'll call this questionable web files. I'll add that here. I also might want to go and look at specific information and see what else this person is searching for. What kind of searches are they conducting? And we can just toggle through these. Now we haven't done any advanced carving on these files yet, but we can see what's out there. And go and view the Yahoo web pages that they've been looking at. I'm going to select this, and I'll add this to my bookmark as well. Let's see what else they're looking at. Well, this user is looking at the same Washington Post articles. This might be something that we need to keep record of. Let's go and look in their documents and see if there are any documents there. Turn off our filter. Let's go and look at some files. Here's a Japanese text file. Let's save that. Let's create a new bookmark, and we'll call this Documents. Let's go and see what else we can uncover on the other machines. I'm going to go and selectively grab some files. I'm going to turn off my quick picks. And we'll go and grab some files from temporary internet files on both drives. Check off just those specific areas. Let's minimize these. And we'll also go to our email. go and create a live search. Here we can add a text, we can add a pattern, and under the patterns we have pre-built grep characters, grep commands, and also grep expressions. But for now I'm going to do text. I'm going to search for netcat. I'll add that, and I'll only apply this to my checked files. We'll run that search. And then we'll go back and we'll search for other search terms like idle. We'll add that and we'll search for that. And we'll create another one and we'll call this hacked. We'll add that search term and we'll search for that as well. And our 3 search terms are running now. We'll go back and we'll start an index search. Now, using our index, I can go and search for anything that I think might be relevant. I'll add Obama. I'm going to do an OR. I'm also going to add hacked. And I'll add hacked. And I'm going to run that search now and see where we come up with hits. And here's where we find hacked. We can see that in a search, hacked has already come up. I'm going to pop this window out. I'll bring it down here. You can also see that it's come up in an email as well. And it's also come up in a web page. Let's put that back for now. I'm also going to add some search terms for Hobbit. And if I pull my window across, I can see how many times these search terms come up. And I'm also going to search for netcat. Let's see if we have any. We don't have any hits in our index at this point, but we can clear these and we can keep trying. I can also go and search for Gmail and see if we have anything, any hits. And I can add that. We see that there's a lot of hits. So let's create an and we'll call this Howard. We'll add Howard. Let's run that search and see if we have anything that comes up. So we have Howard and Gmail in the same place. And we can go and look at these emails. Here's my personal address. Let's look at the natural view. And we also found that someone's been looking at or pointing to rootkit.com. Let's add this as evidence. Now let's check on our live search. Our search has come back with some hits, and we can see that there are some hits up here in search19.htm. We can go and pop this out and look at some of the information there. Let's look at the web view. And here we can see a netcat download was requested. Includes our demonstration of Access Data's enterprise solution. Thank you for your time. If there are any questions, they can be addressed to allsales, ALLSALES, @accessdata.com. Thank you for your time.